In the summer of 1945, as the mushroom cloud rose over Hiroshima and the Second World War gasped its last breath, another war was already being born, invisible, bloodless on the surface, but far more dangerous than any that came before. Its battlefields were embassies, safe houses, and hotel rooms. Its weapons were briefcases, cameras, and coded telegrams. And its soldiers? Men and women who didn't wear uniforms, who lived under false names, and who smiled as they lied for their country. The Cold War didn't start with a declaration. It began with a theft. Inside a top-secret lab in Los Alamos, New Mexico, where the world's first atomic bomb had been built, a quiet, bespectacled physicist named Klaus Fuchs slipped a set of notes into his briefcase. He didn't look like a spy. He was polite, intelligent, soft-spoken. But the papers he carried that day would soon help the Soviet Union build its own atomic bomb years ahead of schedule. When he passed the microfilm to his Soviet handler, the race for nuclear supremacy became a dead heat, and the United States would never again sleep easily. By the time Washington realized how deep the betrayal ran, the Soviet Union already had the bomb. Stalin announced it in 1949, stunning the West. The U.S. intelligence community went into panic mode. How had they done it? Who had told them? Inside the corridors of the newly formed CIA, suspicion spread like wildfire. Every scientist, every diplomat, every friend might be a traitor. In the heart of this paranoia stood two men whose rivalry would define the next 50 years. Allen Dulles, the calculating spy master who shaped the CIA, and Lavrenti Beria, Stalin's ruthless intelligence chief. Dulles believed in precision, information, influence, and subtle manipulation. Beria believed in fear. He ran his agents like a butcher handles knives. Between them, they created a world of shadows where no truth could be trusted and no loyalty was certain. In Washington, the hunt began with the Venona Project, an ultra-secret U.S. code-breaking program designed to intercept and decrypt Soviet communications. Day and night, cryptanalysts pored over streams of encrypted radio chatter. Hidden in the noise, they began to spot patterns, fragments of English words, repeated code names, subtle signatures. Piece by piece, the Americans began to realize the terrifying truth. Soviet spies weren't just in Europe. They were inside the United States government itself. Names began to surface, real people, living normal lives in suburban America. There was Harry Dexter White, a senior Treasury official. There was Alger Hiss, a well-groomed diplomat who had once worked with Roosevelt himself. And perhaps most shocking of all, there was a network of ordinary citizens quietly funneling atomic secrets through cutouts and couriers. Among them were Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, a young married couple from New York City. To their neighbors, they seemed ordinary, even idealistic. Julius, an electrical engineer, Ethel, a devoted wife and mother. But to the FBI, they became symbols of betrayal. Arrested in 1950, they were accused of passing atomic secrets to the Soviets through a chain of spies that reached deep into Los Alamos. Their trial and eventual execution in 1953 divided America. Some called them traitors. Others saw them as scapegoats of hysteria. But the message to the world was clear. The Cold War was no longer a game of diplomacy. It was a war of faith, fought in the shadows and in the hearts of ordinary people. While America tightened its grip at home, the Soviets expanded their reach abroad. Across Eastern Europe, newly installed communist regimes began purging their own citizens in the name of loyalty. In East Germany, the Stasi was born, a secret police force so invasive that neighbors informed on each other and every typewriter had to be registered with the state. The KGB, its parent organization, trained agents in subtle arts, surveillance, seduction, forgery, and fear. The KGB's greatest weapon was patience. They could plant an agent in a foreign country for decades, waiting silently for the perfect moment to act. In 1954, a man named Kim Philby sat comfortably in a London club, sipping whiskey and chatting with colleagues from MI6. None of them suspected that Philby, one of Britain's top intelligence officers, had been a Soviet double agent since the 1930s. He had fed Moscow every major British and American plan for years, and his reports had shaped the Kremlin's understanding of the West. When his betrayal was finally uncovered, it shattered British intelligence and humiliated the CIA, who had trusted him completely. By the mid-1950s, espionage had evolved into a kind of dark art, half psychology, half theater. CIA officers operated from embassies, using diplomatic cover to recruit informants behind the Iron Curtain. Soviet spies did the same in Washington, often posing as journalists, trade officials, or cultural attachés. B.